Hello there. In this video lesson we're going to show you how you can create a bracelet similar to the one that's on the screen there, but we're going to add different patterns to each object within the bracelet there, and I'm not actually going to do 4 different patterns. We're just going to work on 2 different patterns. So the screenshot here shows you 4 patterns all the same. We're going to add in 2 different patterns. So if we go to Fluid Designer, we go to the Bracelets folder. The screenshot there showed you using this bracelet, 65mm by 4, so there are 4 circles there. We're just going to work with 2. So if we select 65mm by 2 bracelet and drag and drop that onto the workspace, there's our opening screen. Now if we try adding a pattern in here, it will be replicated on the other side. Now the way that it's actually replicated is by using a modifier, and it's the column, set the columns modifier here, and there's a count of 2. So this is actually an array. So it's an array modifier that's been created for you here. And the one with 4 copies of this disk has got a count of 4. So you can just set the count back to 1, or you can actually completely delete the array here. That will take it completely out of the file. Okay, so all we've got there is the bracelet diameter. Now I'm not going to change the bracelet diameter from 65mm. Probably done that in other videos, but there are different diameters that you can set here. So the default one in this instance is in a diameter 65mm, so it's this object here. We're going to leave it at that, but you could change it. Now, usually in Fluid Designer we don't recommend you go to File and Save, but in this instance you do need to do that, and don't go to File and Save, go to File and Save As. File and Save As. We don't want to delete the original file on your system, because that way you won't have the array modifier there. You won't have 2 copies of this. You have to recreate it yourself. So go to File and Save As, and I go to the desktop, and I'm just going to delete the word master at the end, and I'm going to save that as a 65mm by 2 bracelet 001. And notice it's as a blender file, not as an object file, a printable file. So we just save that to the desktop, because we're going to use that again in a minute. Now I'm going to add a pattern to this now. So if I go to File and Append, and if we just go up, let's see, where are we? We need to go, let's go to Bracelets over here. Because we saved to the desktop, the folder system was not quite the right folder, so I've had to go to Recent Folders, and I've gone to Bracelets. So if I just go up through the menu system now, I end up at Groups. So these are all the patterns that are on our system at the moment. And let's see, I'm going to use an astrological pattern, so it's Patterns Astrological, and I'm going to use Virgo pattern 001. If I do 1A will actually have a border around it, 001 won't. So I'm going to use the Virgo pattern, and go to Object, and Zodiac Virgo pattern, append it from the library. So there's my Virgo pattern, and I'll just switch on screencast keys. So if I just click on that, make sure it's highlighted, so you're looking for the yellow. Now the first thing I need to do is to rotate it 90 degrees so that it will then go into this circle. So R on the keyboard, X, and then 90 degrees. So that rotates it, so the orientation's alright there. Now this, when we join this Virgo pattern to our bracelet here, one of the strange things that happens is that this is rotated back to front in the Z axis. This is the Virgo pattern as it should appear, but it will be back to front if we just join these two objects together. So what I need to do is to do rotate in the Z axis 180 degrees. So my Virgo pattern is back to front as I look at it now, but because of the way Fluid Designer works, when I join it to this bracelet here, to put it in this circle, it will flip it around. And then the other thing that I need to do is I need to adjust this so that it fits on the inside of our circle here and fits exactly inside the bracelet. So if we go to View and Top, what we need to do is to move the bottom of this object so that it's in line with the x-axis. So we just move it up one there. And you can see that the centre of that is in line with these other grey lines here, which are all these curves. Okay, so you need to rotate it 180 degrees about the Z, and you need to adjust it as well. So we can now join the two together. So if I select the bracelet last, you must select that object first. If I go to Tools, Object Tools and Join, notice that it flipped it around there. And then it fits it into our circle. Now we've got a little bit sticking out the bottom here. I quite like that, so I'm going to leave that. Do look around the whole of the object to see if there's any other issues. Now there is a slight issue there. So if I press the Tab key and just move it around to that position, you can see it's just this control point here. I could just need to adjust it slightly. Now I need to switch the snap off because I only want to move it very slightly, and if I just zoom in there you can see, so I'm just trying to get rid of that little line there. I mean, when it's 3D printed that's probably so small it's not going to affect it, but we'll just correct it anyway. So Tab key to come out of edit mode. So there's my Virgo sign inside the bracelet there. Now, I need to save this, but I don't want to write on top of 001, so I'm going to go to File and Save As again. And notice we're in the desktop, and I want to call this 002. So I've got my Virgo pattern there in 002. And it's going up, the bracelet at the moment is going around this bit here. So what can I do next? Well, if I go to File and Open Recent, if I go to 001, here's my bracelet without anything in the centre there. Now what I'm going to do now is to add a different pattern into the centre here. So if I go to View and Front View, and let me just look for the bracelet object. Where are we? Yeah, so this is our 65 by 2mm bracelet. So I'm just going to restrict the view of that so I can actually see the center of my workspace here. And what I'm going to do is to use these objects to create a pattern to put into my bracelet. So if I select that square there, if I just drag it down to the center, position it there, I could then perhaps put a circle around it as well, and I could perhaps choose one of these objects here, these arcs, drag it across there. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I get this, try and get the same arc on the other side to go to the bottom. Okay, now when we attempt to join these to the bracelet, we must have a line that goes to the edge of the bracelet. So we do need either a vertical or a horizontal line which will go to the edge of the bracelet, the completed bracelet. Okay, now clearly you can use create your own patterns here by putting different objects into the center of the screen here. Now once you're happy with the objects, the curves that you've placed there, you can highlight them all. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 objects. Tools, object tools, and join them all together. Yeah, I think that's all of them. 5 objects, I think. Yep. So view and front view. So we now need to switch the bracelet itself back on. Now the thing about these objects here is you don't need to go to view and top and adjust them, because they are positioned offset for you, taking into account this bracelet. So when we join this to here now, it should work perfectly. With the object at the center highlighted, if I hold down the shift key on the keyboard and highlight the bracelet and go to tools, object tools, and join them, you'll see that it positions that pattern in the middle of the bracelet there very nicely. Now the other pattern, the Virgo pattern that we created, which we saved as 002, the bracelet was on this part of the overall circle. So I need to rotate this around. Well, before I do that, what I can do is, if I convert this to a mesh, this will apply the bracelet diameter, apply any modifiers, apply any thickness, and convert the object to a mesh essentially. Now once I've got it as a mesh, I can now easily rotate this about the Z-axis. So I could go here, for example, and if I just click and I'm just holding down the left mouse button and dragging it around, I actually want it at exactly 180, because we've got 2 circles, so they're going to be offset from each other at 180 degrees. Okay, so I can now save that. Well, I can in this instance go to File and Save. I'm not deleting my original master file, so I can save that as 001. Now, if I go to File and Open Recent, and if I open 002, I haven't converted this to a mesh yet, but I can do now. So if I go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert that to a mesh, and then what I can do is to bring my other half of the bracelet in, I can go to File and Append, and I need to go to the desktop, and it's 001 object, and it's a 65mm by 2 bracelet. That was the name of the file, 65mm by 2 bracelet. So if that's the object that I want to append, all these are just the various bits of curves around it. So yep, there it is. And because I've offset it at 180 degrees, you'll see that we've got just a little bit of overlap there and a little bit of overlap there, but they should fit perfectly because of the way that the system has been set up for you. So now what we can do is, if we highlight that object, hold down the shift key, and I highlight the other half of the bracelet, and if you go to Tools, Object Tools, and join the two together, you've then got your completed bracelet there, in this instance with two different patterns on them, 2 different patterns. All we need to do now is to save this as an OBJ file now. We need to save it as in printable file format as an OBJ file, and then run it through Netback. So here we want to go to export it as a wavefront object. We'll export it to the desktop. We don't need 001 or 002 anymore. We can call it, we can just say 65mm by 2 bracelet with a Virgo pattern, 2 T's pattern. And then the other pattern, of course, is the one that we've designed ourselves. Now, you can import 2 different patterns from the system. You can create your own patterns, you can add text, you can write your name in one of the circles, and a Virgo sign or whatever other astrological sign you want in the other circle. And obviously the same thing can be applied to using 3 or 4 different circles as part of the bracelet. Okay, so that's the end of this this video lesson. Thank you.